we go. There's
Ah,
Ron.
I had to go through a whole process here I just had another computer in my room.
right.
And it just had me sign in to all the different stuff that I normally have my son help me. He's not here. So anyways, you can hear me loud and clear?
Absolutely.
Ron, good job,
And
Ron.
we're in a transition too. Like I'm not in the studio today, and I'm terrible with technology. So hopefully there is no issues on my end.
Not at all. I can perfectly see all your tattoos.
Nice. Not all of them. Not all of them.
Well, we're in everybody's homes today, so it's more. It's more. It's a little more homey today.
I'm a little bit cut off. I'm trying to figure this thing out here.
Is that you behind you? Is that you?
That is, yeah.
What is that for?
No, what do you mean? What is that for? What do you?
Is that poster or that big picture of you? Is that from something specific, or was just like a photo shoot thing?
Well, that was a poster we made, I think, in 1980. That was that I sold of myself.
Right.
You know, and and to the other side is my jersey, and it's just kind of a room I created. I like Ron room. So
it's the Ron cave.
Nice.
I love it. That's awesome.
So we'll leave it this way. Okay, we're good.
We're good. Thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it, and look forward to chatting with you.
My pleasure. I'm surrounded by Philadelphia colors, and I'm looking at your logo.
we're haunting you.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the Philly circle now.
You basically are.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Well, Corey, at least with his dad Doug, there's a lot of Toronto history there, so it's not too bad.
Well, and my dad was mentioning too. I didn't realize you were from Sudbury. So I'm in Ontario. So I'm in St. Catharines, Ontario. So I'm about 6 hours from Sudbury. But a lot of buddies of mine played up there, and you're a legend in Sudbury, Ron. That's for sure. So
I like to think that I'm Mark, and if you go to Sudbury Arena, they were kind enough to retire my jersey there. So I guess I did enough to leave a legacy.
Yeah. Well, that's what I said. My buddy said you guys were there a little before him, but growing up, what he's saying with Randy Carlisle, Hector Marini, Rod Schutt, Dave Farish, said you guys were legends. But he also wanted me to ask you, do you ever remember a place called Mingles?
Mingles in Sudbury?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was a little bit later. Yeah, I remember there weren't many bars to go to. So one of them, the Ambassador, the other one was the Fruit, but Mingles, was one of them.
Okay. Because Kim and I were trying to figure out.
An old school name for a club place, isn't it? Mingles. So that very old school. I'm not familiar with the area up there very, very much. So is that near where you grew up, Corey?
It's about 6 hours north. It's the Big Nickel, so it's the nickel town. But yeah, and Ron, we're not live. We record anything, so if there's anything somebody says you want to cut out, we can do that. We can edit whatever. So
yeah, we had Joe Bowen on, and he right off the bat just started cursing out people, and he was kind of going nuts. And we're like, we're recording. So obviously we erased all that, but he almost had a heart attack. So that's why I told you ahead of time.
All right.
I'm an open book, and I'm pretty free of what I say, and I'm so used to kind of being careful what you say,
right?
Used against you at a later date. But I'm not afraid of opening up and speaking my mind.
Well, why? I mean, I know you like bike and golf and tennis, and So is that is that how you stay in such like awesome shape? Like you don't age at all. Like.
Well, thank you. I use tennis as a tool to stay in shape over the years.
Right.
When I was 15, 16, even in Sudbury, we had some old tennis courts that I would go and play a little bit. And I figured it made a lot of sense with just running and trapping a ball, going after the ball, your footwork and your handwork. So it made a lot of sense to me. So because I'd every year I go to training camp, I'd always be in great shape, and everyone would say, "What? you're in such great shape. And I said, it was easy because I was actually training, but I was having fun. Playing tennis every single day made it where I can still compete and not have to work hard come training camp. I'm not one of those guys that allows myself to get heavy.
Right.
And, really, I'll cheat on my diet a little bit, but it was always important to me to, if you want to be the best that you can be, you have to be fit.
Yeah.
And when you're fit, it's going to allow you to look good a certain way. And it just makes you feel good. So I've always taken pride in wanting to be that athlete that's always going to look like an athlete.
Right.
I didn't want to turn 60 and look like I'm 80.
Right. Which happens a lot with athletes.
It does, and I think it depends. I think it depends on where they end up as far as their other career. Because if they're sitting behind a desk, or if they've taken something on that has them really stressed out, then you tend to eat more and not exercise as much.
Yeah.
I've had the benefit of not having that 9 to 5 job, and so I live in California for about 16 years, Southern California. So that was easy. Then I moved to Florida. That's easy. And so the climate has to do with it also. So if you're living in Kitchener and Philadelphia, the winter can pound on you.
Yeah.
And then, you're indoors a lot. You're not going outdoors. So I've been in the warmer climate where every day I could be riding my bike. So I'm doing something as far as a form of exercise. And I think I made that commitment more after the first time I got traded from New York. I can tell that I was burning the candle at both ends, and I didn't feel as good, and I didn't play as well. I ended up getting traded by Herb Brooks. But after that, I made a commitment to kind of being the best that I can be. And also at the age of 30, I started thinking, what it's going to be like when I'm 60? Because you would know as a 30-year-old, you'd see 60-year-olds, and you think, wow, they don't seem to be as happy. They don't seem to be as healthy. I don't want to be that person. So I started a long time ago to pay attention to what I eat and drink in moderation, enough exercise, trying to eliminate as much stress as possible. And so I've had a good life. I've had a blessed life, and it's been really good. And I got great support around me, good family, and so life is pretty good.
Yeah, your kids are just absolutely gorgeous. Just on that, just you can tell they just seem to have good energy about them. Just from pictures and stuff. So
I thought you were going to say they have Ron's genes.
We don't do well with boring. We like
yeah. Well, I didn't realize you played tennis all the way back till then. I mean, I grew up. My parents were always my mom. They're always just health. That they were always health fanatics, and so I grew up that style. So I'm the same way. I just always take care of myself, and I mean, don't you want to feel good? It doesn't make sense to me to not exercise, to eat crappy, and feel crappy. So I totally see where you're coming from with that. And if you don't have your health, what do you have? So
yeah. So when your feet hit the ground in the morning, and if you lost a little bit of joy in your life, it's like a struggle to go to work. A lot of it has to do with how you feel. When your feet hit the ground, how do you feel? If you do you feel like you got a hangover every day, or do you feel like you want to go back to bed? Well, that makes it a hard way to start your day.
For sure.
So if you wake up and you're happy, and regardless of what's going on, because there's always bumps in the road, there's always things you got to deal with. But life is easier to deal with when things aren't going right, when you feel good, you're right in the frame of mind. So I'm a big believer that take care of yourself, and life is easier. As hard as it can be sometimes, it's easier.
I agree. And it is nice to be in Florida and California. Like my daughter lived in San Diego for a while, and just being able to walk everywhere and be outside, I just love it. I love it so much out there. And it's so easy to have a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah. Well, the reason when I played 2 years in San Diego, so I know San Diego. I played for the San Diego Gulls on my league team. So I spent 2 years there. But the reason I ended up over there is because my first wife, she was a Californian. And so after every off season, we'd always go back there. And I just realized after growing up in Canada, Sudbury, 20 years, that the winters can be fun, but also it's, you know how they talk about the bears going into hibernation?
Right.
As people, we kind of get into that mode because everything,
Mhm.
a lot of things die, right?
Yeah.
Meaning the leaves come down, everything's dark, and the grass goes away. And there's a certain feeling to that. Versus if you're down south,
Mhm.
it most of the time stays alive. The grass
Yeah.
is always green. Trees don't always fall, their leaves are always falling. It does, you know, because I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. It's a little bit different here because it gets a little cooler. But it just, there's a different feeling to it, especially if you can be near the water, be near the beach. So
Yeah.
if you have an opportunity to pick and choose, and that's why I've been, um, you know, very grateful for being able to pick and choose where I live. That if down south makes a difference. Now I'm not telling everybody to leave Canada, come down south.
A
I am.
lot are right now.
Hey, with the guidelines, get out
Yeah,
of here.
there are many Canadians that are heading down to Florida now. This past year has been hard on everyone,
Yeah.
but especially harder on them over there in Canada. A lot of them are, once things open up, I think they're all heading south. And that's one of the reasons that I've decided, and I guess I could share with you, I'm working on doing a hockey show of a different kind. And it would essentially be, I don't know if it'd be a pregame show or postgame show to a game, but it'd be a hockey show near the beach or on the beach, in the bar, open bar on the beach, live,
Nice.
live with a live audience. But I want to go where the Canadians are, and they're in Hollywood, Florida.
Yeah.
And so right now I'm looking and I'm talking with the city of Hollywood to be able to pick a location and work with the snowbirds, but also do it in a way where just talking to the Canadians, it's okay to come down to Florida. Things are reasonably safe down here, but to do that in a different way, where actually it'd be live entertainment, possibly have a chef there, sit at a piano bar, and it would be me, just being me, doing a live show, talking hockey, having guests, but also interacting with a live audience, which I've always wanted to do that. Like I worked for MSG for 12 years, and I always felt like we could have a better show if we did this live in front of a live audience.
Yeah.
They never saw the um, the benefit of doing that. I said, listen, I work much better with a live audience, and so that's one thing I'm. You know, some of the things that I see on TV, it's okay, but it's all the same stuff, right? It's all the same stuff. You got a desk, you got two guys, analysts, you got the host. It's all the same stuff. But to do it with a live audience, a little bit of interaction, get some feedback, there's really nothing like that. You can still do the news, but still interact with a live audience.
Yeah.
So my intention is to do that at some restaurant bar where people are going to be lined up to try to get into this place. Do something different on a hockey show, which I'm hoping to start in October.
I love that. And thinking outside the box, you know, it's just like you said, something a little different. And I think that would be awesome.
I'm an outside of the box guy.
Yeah. Here you go. Yeah.
Over the years, you know what you like and you don't like. And I've tried a lot of things. You know what you like and you don't like. You know what works, what doesn't work. And you know how you can improve on certain things, because most people are just kind of follow the regular stuff, the regular routine.
Mm.
But I want to do something different. So
well, we talk about like growing up in the hockey world. You know, our dads played, so we grew up in it, and it's hard to be a 9-to-5er when you grow up in that environment. Like my brother and I were like the total opposite of that. You know, it's like it's hard to. You're not used to seeing your dad get up at 9, go to work, come home at 5:30. Like it's just. Summers are off, you know, it's hard to do the 9-to-5.
Listen, all my kids are all the same, right? Because like my son, Noah, who's 27, he grew up with 2 celebrity parents that did not have 9 to 5.
Right.
You know, we were doing our own thing and flying here, flying there. Life is good. And there was no way he was going to get into any kind of work. Right away, he wants to be an entrepreneur because he sees, well, the benefit of it, your own boss, but there's also a benefit of having your own hours and making your own money. So sure enough, that's what he's gotten into. He started his own business, and you know, all my other kids are none of them are 9-to-5s.
Mm-hmm. That's funny. Are they hockey? Your kids into the hockey?
Well, my son Noah,
Yeah.
he took it to a certain level, but he liked all the sports, so he didn't concentrate on one. He ended up playing lacrosse and football, and so he had, sure enough, eventually got hurt his shoulders, and that just kind of took him out of doing anything further past the age of 20. So he had his fun with it as being an athlete. I had my fun watching him compete.
Yeah.
My girls were volleyball players, really, really good. The only problem is my wife, who I'd married, was only 5'3".
Couldn't spike it.
So they ended up being 5'4". And so after a while, as a volleyball player, you need the height. So they had their fun with volleyball.
It's funny you mentioned volleyball and tennis, because like tennis, in my mind, I'm a really good tennis player. And then when I get out to play, I'm not, because I'm all arms and legs, and I'm just kind of, and I get so mad because I think that I'm so good, but I'm really not. So, and I'm like that with volleyball too.
Are you, because you're playing against bad players?
I don't know. My brother's pretty good. I don't know.
How old is he?
He is, I'm 48. He's 51.
You're 48?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, you're that old. I didn't know you were that old. Well,
Yeah.
You look good for your age.
Well, thank you. So do you. And Corey's 48 too. We're actually about 6 weeks apart, and our dads were born 2 days apart.
Okay. How do your dad, by the way?
Are you talking to me or Corey?
Yeah, say hi to your dad, because of.
I certainly will.
Yeah. He was always when I look back at those teams, which is not easy team to play against back then, but your dad was always the regular guy. He always seemed to be the nice guy on the team.
Yeah.
You meet him years later, and he couldn't have been any nicer. French Canadian. Where's he from? Where was he born?
Montreal.
Montreal. Do you speak French?
A little bit. He married an American, a Jersey girl, so they didn't really speak French that much at home. So a little bit. When I go up there, I pick it up more, but we don't really use it that much.
Yeah. Does he spend any time in Florida?
He has a place in Boca.
Really?
Yeah. So him and his wife go down there. Yeah.
Okay. Just so you know, the one thing I forgot to tell you on my show, I have to do it in French.
You do?
I do.
The whole show?
Well, yeah.
And how's that going?
Because I'm French Canadian. My first language is French, although.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but I can speak French if I work at it. So
that's how it is with me. I have to work at it.
Yeah. So so I was asked to do the show, and they said, "How's your French?" I said, "It's okay." So they tested me on one of the big stations in Quebec, and I guess I pulled it off okay.
Nice.
And, so yeah, that's going to be the tough part for me, but I'm going to be looking for guests. So
he's right. He's down there. So
how does your dad feel about doing interviews? Is he okay with that? Because I know he does a ton of them. Was he comfortable doing interviews, or?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's totally comfortable with that. Absolutely.
Okay.
Corey, I just kind of, where did I go? Okay. Sorry, I disappeared. I lost all you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can see you.
Yeah, I can hear you and see you.
You can hear me and see me? All right, I can't see you guys. I don't know what happened. All right, well, we'll keep going. I'll figure it out as we're going along.
No, you look fine. We can see you. We can see you.
Right.
No, but she can't see Corey. She can't see us.
Oh, you can't see us?
You guys are the main attraction here.
Yeah.
All right, let's see.
Hey, hold on. Try this. Are you there now?
My phone rang and my computer picked it up. So I think I told you I'm terrible with technology.
Well,
when
we're
I say
mixing it up a
terrible,
bit here.
I mean terrible. There we go. All right, you're back.
Okay, you're back.
All right.
I was going to say, we had tennis courts at our place in Colorado, and Joel Quinville used to come up, and he had a Smokey and the Bandit black Trans Am with the big golden hawk on the front.
Smokey and the
He used to always drive up the mountain.
I had the same car.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I had that same car in New York, in fact.
Yeah.
That's
anyway.
so funny. I love that show.
Joel's a good guy. Joel Quinville's a good guy.
Yeah, him and my dad used to have intense tennis matches. Like, it was intense. But yeah, no, that was funny. I think that's, my dad was a lacrosse player, but he always played a lot of tennis too to keep in shape.
Hmm.
And I did want to ask you, one of my dad's good friends that he still sees all the time, Billy Harris. Billy Harris had a place in Hermosa Beach or Manhattan Beach called Harry O's. Did you ever go to Harry O's?
No, I don't think I know Harry O's.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever went in there. I might have. What
Okay.
year would that have been?
I think maybe he sold it around, late 80s or something. And, but he's up in Muskoka now.
Yeah,
Billy Harris lives up in Muskoka. So
yeah, it's not familiar to me. I might have been in
No.
there. There's a pretty good chance.
and you know what? Because my dad used to go with, I think Barry Beck with Bubba. And I used to always get tank tops. My dad came back from California with Harry O's. And I'm like, oh, and I found out it was Billy Harris's bar. And
Okay.
Beck, I think he used to go there.
So was that when Barry was playing for the Kings in '88?
I think so. Yeah. So it must have been, yeah. So he probably had it in 88. Yeah. I'm not sure of the years, but that was, that was, late 80s, 90s. So,
Little Harry O's.
yeah. I was going to ask you too. You and Barry played together. I remember my dad and Bubba played in Colorado. You guys are pretty good buddies in New York. Do you still stay in contact with him or?
Well, he's in China.
Hong Kong. Yeah, he's in Hong Kong.
No.
Wow, that's a big. Maybe he lives there.
Yeah,
Been there for 10 years, I think.
Wow.
he's been there longer than 10 years.
Oh,
So
I think that.
the last I spoke to Barry was because I do a podcast for the New York Post. It's called Up in the Blue Seats. I don't know if you're aware of that, but yeah. So
Okay.
one of the shows I wanted to talk about a young player that we lost. He's not young anymore, Mark Pavlich, who
Yes.
so Pav, we lost. He committed suicide. He was close with Pavlich. So I brought him on the show, Barry, one time, just kind of talk about his status. And so Barry just kind of filled us in on that. But I also got to talk to him about, why he went over there, why he went to China, and, what was it like because of, I would have never thought Barry Beck in China.
What took him there? Like, why did he go?
I think an opportunity came up to do a hockey program. He was in Vancouver, and he wasn't doing a whole lot. He needed something, and some guy invited him over to want to develop young hockey players, like in of camp and leagues. So he started small, and then all of a sudden he's got now an academy. So he's done really, really well over there. He's very comfortable there. And I think he just needed to get away and he needed to do something different. And this just happened to work out for him.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole different lifestyle. That's really.
You guys were close too, but I wanted to ask you, you guys did actually have a fight when you got traded to Detroit. And which I wanted to say, when you kind of said you're changing, your lifestyle was changing, a little healthier. You had 2 best years in Detroit for points.
Yeah.
And then I noticed, I was like, oh man, these guys are buddies. And I think they fought. What led to that? Do you remember that or?
Who won?
Well, I remember that. And, Barry and I we were good friends. We hung out all the time because we go to Studio 54 together and we partied together. And my last year with Barry, with the Rangers, Herb Brooks was a coach. Yeah. And that's when things started to kind of go south. Barry was the captain, so he took on a certain amount of responsibility. And Herb Brooks wasn't pleased with me from the year before because I was getting so much attention. And I had scored 40 goals. And then the following year, he felt like he needed to put his finger on me and trying to tone me down. And as soon as he saw an opportunity to do it, he did it. So it created tension on the team. Not that there was so much tension between Barry and I, but there was tension between the coach and certain players. And so sure enough, that summer, so Barry and I became maybe a little bit distant. And so sure enough, I get traded to the Red Wings.
Yeah.
And I'm playing with Stevie Yzerman, John Agronic, off to a good start. And it was like, in your face, Herb Brooks. And, this might have been the first game. I don't know if it was the first game back at the Guard, 1 or 2 of the games. I don't know which one it was. But I don't know if you remember Thomas Sandstrom, Swede.
Yeah.
He's a big guy, but he's a little bit chippy. And sure, and he gave me a little shot in the hands, and sure enough, I got him up against the glass. And sure enough, I get a tap on the shoulder, and Well, yeah, it was Barry that comes in, as he should, to help his teammate. He's the captain. And so he kind of pushes me, and we look at each other, and I'm like, Barry, I'm not going to take this from you. And we just did the hockey thing, which we both dropped our gloves.
Yeah.
And because I know how strong Barry is, I knew that I wasn't going to try to go toe to toe with him, because Kimmy would have to have won. I didn't want to necessarily hit Barry. I didn't really want to fight, and I don't think he wanted to either. We ended up just grabbing each other, wrestled. He did end up falling on top of me because he's so strong. But it was more him doing what he was doing, and me just kind of defending myself and letting him know I wasn't going to be intimidated by him. Yeah. Just like I've done many times, not many times, but I had to do in Philadelphia against some of the bigger boys there. You just have to stand up for yourself. So, yeah, nothing was even said between the two of us. I never said anything. It was just, even that, I run into him after that. Nothing was ever said. It was just, we know it's just part of the business.
Part of the game, yeah. What was it like your first game back in New York?
I could remember. Well, I went back to New York, and their team was pretty good, and I was on a weaker team, Detroit, and so I can remember going back and going 100 miles an hour. Of course, I'm playing with Stevie. I don't know if I scored a goal in that game. I just felt when I left, I had really committed to being a Red Wing, so it wasn't like it was a tearful going back. It was like I wanted to go back, and part of me wanted to just kind of prove to Herb Brooks he made a mistake. So I don't know if I really accomplished a whole lot that game. I just know that they were watching as I progressed in Detroit, because I was going a point a game, and I scored like 33 goals that year. So
you had like 89. You had like 89 points. 80 points one year and 89 points the other year. So that was, take that, Herb Brooks.
Yeah, nothing better than success to shut people up.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it was a wake up call for me, though, because I knew in that season that I was not feeling myself. I didn't quite have the energy, because I don't want to say partying really hard, but there was a lot of nights where I'd show up to practice and I was a little banged up.
Right, running a little hard.
Studio 54.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, New York will do it too, especially back in those days. I feel like then New York was just, not that it isn't still, but it was like.
Listen, you can find trouble anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't mean trouble, but you can have fun where they get you in trouble anywhere. I don't care if you're in Winnipeg or Minnesota. Didn't matter where you were as a team, or even local teams, the regular teams, there was always good places to go to. So you can still get as goofy and crazy anywhere. New York, it was just at a different level, where Studio 54 was the most popular club in the world, and everyone wanted to get in there at least one time, and all the A-list celebrities were in there at one point. So I was part of all that. I didn't get into the crazy. I enjoyed going there because the music was awesome and beautiful great dance floor. So I'd be in there after games and just dancing up a storm.
So you did dance? You're a dancer.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm not sitting on the sidelines. I used to tell
back in the day when I used to go out a lot, and I was always in great shape, but I was like drinking and all that. But I'm like, it's that dance floor that kept me in shape.
Yeah, well, for me, like I would tell people, like nowadays players get on the bike to get rid of the lactic acid in their legs. Yeah. I said, no, I don't. I go right past that. I'm out of the room and I'm on the dance floor getting ready.
You just set one up in your house.
Forget about the bike. I'm not doing no bike.
Half the
it's
players.
funny because my dad, like for him, the summer was, I mean, he would still run or do the bike and stuff, but he would get back in shape at, like he said, he didn't spend the whole summer staying in shape like you did. But now if you show up at training camp out of shape, like you're in trouble.
Well, when I say that, my early years, I was not like that. My early years, I would take 2 or 3 months off. Yeah. It wasn't until later, like when I went to Detroit, it was after that summer that's when I moved to California and I was playing tennis all the time. But before that, oh no, it wasn't quite the same. I was like everyone else. In fact, my first year in training camp, 1977, guys like Phil Esposito, Carol Vadnais, Kenny Hodge, all these guys in the dressing room, Steve Vickers, they show up to training camp. Day one, right? Now that summer I went hard because I need to make the team. Those guys showed up, they hadn't skated yet. Not once. Not one time. They hadn't their gear on yet. And I remember the trainers coming in, grabbing their bag from the season before out of the back. They hadn't opened it up yet. Today is the first day of training. I'm like, oh my God. So up there, I've been training all summer. I'm going 100 miles an hour because I want to make the team. And sure enough, a couple of the old guys, Kenny Hodge, Phil Esposito, tell me, hey Dukes, listen, you need to slow down.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the
bad.
veterans. Yeah, you're making us look awful here.
My dad never skated in the summer.
No.
Never. I don't ever remember him skating in the summer.
Yeah, that's what it was like, especially for a goaltender to put all that gear on.
Yeah.
Yuck. You know, and you got yeah.
He was too busy fishing and, hanging on the beach and stuff, it's summer.
Yeah. Well, with him also, though, towards the end, because he was playing a lot of playoff hockey.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was the grind, because when you think about what it's like to be a forward compared to a goaltender, especially a goaltender is playing a lot of games.
I mean, he played almost every game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would love to chat to your dad about how they feel like they have to so protect goaltenders nowadays. Like they're monitoring how many games they play, how many minutes, this and that. I'm like, what happened to the old school days?
It drives him crazy. He's like, what do you mean you have to rest the goalie? He's like, we played all season. It's what we did. It drives him crazy.
Well, it's like a defenseman, a top four defenseman, right? It's not like you got to give him days off. And
right.
he's lugging harder time.
Yeah.
Goaltender's there sometimes sitting as the plays going the other end, just kind of waiting. But it's not, they make them look like there's these they're made out of paper. These guys are strong, they're in good shape. I can see the only reason I would see giving them rest time is mentally.
Yeah.
It's the mental pressure of being the backbone of the team. That you can maybe rest on that. But physically, these guys don't need to rest.
Yeah.
Right? He's going to play back to back, or he might play 3 and 4 games. So what? I'm sure most defenders want to play.
So, the back to back. They never have them play back to back anymore.
Seldom. They'll do it. Depends on the goaltender.
Brodeur never. He always played all season, basically, didn't he?
Yeah, he played games unless he's hurt. He's not going to play. Otherwise, you're the starter, and you start just like a starting defenseman, just like a starting centerman who's playing on the power play, killing penalties. He's getting
back and forth. Usually,
yeah. So why can't a goaltender play every single game? It's just this whole new thing, this whole mindset, and I think new goaltenders now have bought into it. They bought into it, like, oh, I'll just get some rest time.
Yeah.
Just rest. Some guys like Lundqvist, though, wanted to play every game.
Yeah.
He wanted to play every game. He didn't really like to rest, but there's not many guys that wanted to rest. Why sit on the bench? You want to go play.
For my dad, he said it threw his game off. Like, he needs to be out there going every game. Like, the rest didn't help him. He said it would hurt him.
Yeah. Boring.
But
I think
the whole game has changed so much. I'm sorry, Corey, I cut you off.
Back in the day, I think their punishment, if the goalie was hung over, he was starting. That was your punishment.
Yeah. My dad said he had his best games hung over.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we used to call it playing guilty.
Yeah,
exactly.
I forget who it was.
Play guilty, because especially if the coach knew, because the coaches will kind of know, right? Because the coaches were guys that played before us, and they were worse than us. So they kind of knew, so they would pay attention. So if they knew a guy can pull it off and play better when he'd been drinking, you say, okay, have at it.
Yeah.
Go have fun, just play guilty and play good.
Right. Oh, Chico was the one. We had him on, and he was talking about playing guilty. Yeah.
Well, no, I don't think Chico partied a whole lot, did he?
No, he didn't. I think he did for like a year, but like one season, but no, he wasn't a big.
No, he wasn't. No,
he never played guilty.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But again, the game has changed just so much. Like when you watch, are there things that drive you crazy about it? Like, or is it just like, it's just so different?
Well, the other thing is when you, because as long as we're talking about ice time, playing 4 lines, I hate. I at the beginning of my career, right up to my middle of my career, was really 3 lines. Then they start adding a couple extra players. Next thing you know, all it takes is one coach to do something. He gets a little bit of success from it. Then they all follow suit. Next thing you know, now we're playing 4 lines.
Yeah.
But if you're a guy that was on a power play penalty kill and killing penalties, you didn't really care. It was because you're still getting enough ice time. But towards the end of my career, where I'm playing in LA, I ended up on that third, fourth line, and waiting on the rotation of 4 lines. I'm like, oh my god, get me out of here.
Right.
It's boring. It's like
Right.
it's just get me on the ice. Like I'm not tired. I feel great. If I'm a little tired, I'll just make my shift a little bit shorter. But I need continuously going over those boards, going over, come off, going off. I play my best hockey then. So when I see now they talk about coaches, the balance of playing 4 lines and making sure they all get somewhat equal ice time, and now they're counting how many minutes they play, and oh, this guy played 20 minutes last game. I wonder how he's going to feel tonight.
They always talk about that during the games. Yeah.
You should only play 18 minutes tonight. I'm like, you can't be serious. And these are analysts that have played the game, and they still talk about playing time.
Even if you're playing 25 minutes, you're still getting a rest in between every shift. Like,
think about any other athlete who does 25 minutes of something. 25 minutes, and if you're in great shape, is nothing, especially if you're getting breaks every 2 minutes. Then you get 15-minute break between periods.
I was just going to say, and you have the intermission too.
I can't. That's one thing I cannot stand. The other thing I can't stand is when they start talking about plus and minus. A player is a plus, player is a minus. There are 6 guys on the ice, and I think both your dads would agree. There are 6 guys on the ice, and you'll get a plus or a minus. Often you'll have nothing to do with it. Nothing. A goal will be scored. It might be a bad goal from a bad goaltender, and you get a minus. You had nothing to do with it. But they stat, they put such an importance on it. Look at this guy; he's a plus 18. Oh my goodness! Or this guy's a -5. And because I played the game, I know sometimes, most of the time, you have nothing to do with the plus or the minus. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. So they all make such an importance on these plus and minus, and they talk about the ice time and fourth line and balance this, balance that. I don't know if it's just talking points that they need to have these talking points. And the other thing is all these analytics, right?
Yeah.
Analytics are okay. They're, out of curiosity, I will look at analytics, right? Percentage of this, percent of that, and it will make sense. But some of these coaches coach according to analytics, right?
Yeah, there's so much on that now. Yeah.
Look at the Leafs. The Leafs have those young guys who are all about stats and analytics, and not helping them.
No, and it's out of curiosity. You can look at it with some of that stuff. But more it's technique and character, and having the right coach that has a feel for the game to know how to teach. He doesn't need to look at analytics,
Right.
So if I was to go scout a player, I'm not going to look at the analytics and say, okay, I like this guy. We're gonna draft him. I want to go look at the guy.
Yeah.
I want to see how he plays in the playoffs, and I want to see how he performs under pressure. I want to see how he interacts with the teammates. Those are all things that I want to know about. I couldn't care less about analytics. You can look at it, how many goals he scored or how many assists, how many penalty minutes. You can look at that, but I want to feel it and see it on a player.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There's just so many changes. My brother doesn't even watch the game anymore, and he was a diehard. But did you play? Now I'm going back. Did you play against my dad ever?
Yeah.
Besides the outdoor game.
Yeah, which was awesome. But because he was in 79.
Your dad retires in 79?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yep.
See, I remembered that. Wow.
Yeah.
That was good.
So my first year was 77.
Yeah.
So I
Now,
played.
but you weren't on the Rangers when he got his injury, though, were you?
I don't know that I would remember.
Yeah,
How
you
did,
probably don't remember.
how did he get hurt?
That when the stick went in his eye, who was it? Do you remember, Corey?
Yeah, no.
It ended his career. It was the Rangers, but I guess you would have remembered if you were on that team.
Well, if it was the Rangers, I was on that team. I don't know why I'm not remembering that.
Your head was at Studio 54. You were playing guilty that game.
Yeah, I'm guilty.
Yeah.
So what was it like,
One
though?
step at a time.
Yeah.
My dad did have a question for you, though, because
Yeah.
he watched the outdoor game, and he wanted to know if you shot the puck into Bernie's glove, or if you were going top shelf and Bernie made the glove save.
We know the answer to that. We know the answer. That was called respect, is what that was.
Yeah.
Were you at the game, Kim?
Yes.
Did you tell that that's what I did?
I knew that if you wanted to, you could have scored.
Okay. Because I tried to disguise it the best I could.
No, you did. Like, you definitely wasn't like a little fluff, but I knew that you could have scored on him if you wanted to.
Okay. Did your dad make a comment about it afterwards? Because I haven't asked him this, because I didn't want to make it embarrassing to him, to make it look like I better make it really weak, otherwise he can't say. I didn't want to do that.
No. He was totally grateful. He thought it was respectful. I mean, that was his last. He went out on that. He'll never play again. Like, that was his last moment, and it couldn't have been a better. And I don't remember him playing. So for me, it was just like, I get the chills just talking about it. So no, he was grateful and felt the respect in that for sure. Yeah.
You ever hear the backstory of that?
Was it Mark Messier?
No. The backstory for me is that I knew it was going to happen in the afternoon. I had this vision.
Really?
I had this vision, premonition. I'm sitting, because I kind of took the game. I didn't want to take the game too seriously because I was in good shape. And if I wanted to fly around and go around a guy, that's great. I didn't want to make anyone, I just wanted to play the game, but I wanted to look good without trying to show off.
Right.
And so I was having, in the afternoon, I told my wife, and she's there with my kids, said, listen, I just want the afternoon to myself. So I did a normal routine, went back to my room, laid down, relaxed. And I started thinking about the game. How am I going to play this game? And it came to me as clear as day that I started to think about the goaltending, that your dad was going to be in net, is going to be in net for the first 5 minutes. And it came to me that I was going to have an opportunity. It was going to be just him and I.
Wow.
And what do I do? It came to me. What do I do?
Wow.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, 4 minutes and maybe 4 minutes and 10 seconds, your dad's getting ready to leave the ice. This play happens. I can't remember. But he fumbles the puck. I get the puck, and here I am.
That's incredible.
I knew what to do. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just knew I was not going to try to score, because it wasn't about me. It wasn't not going to be about me. It was going to be about those first 5 minutes was about your dad. Yeah. It was about celebration of your dad, and it wasn't going to be about me. And I knew what I was going to do. I didn't know how I was going to do it. And it just came to me because I played enough hockey to know, how do I do this to where I'm shooting, but I know that it's going to give him a chance to save it without making it look like. So it couldn't have happened more perfect for your dad. Mm-hmm. And I'm not thinking about me, but what happened to me after that, I don't know if you know this, almost every single player on the Flyer team came to me from that point, and they say, Ron, that was the nicest, classiest thing that we've seen in hockey.
That literally makes me tear up.
Yeah. Well, that's why you have so much respect.
In fact, an hour later, I'm driving somewhere. I get a text. It's Eric Lindros. He said, he didn't say anything to me on it, but he said the same thing to me by text. I wish I would have kept that.
Wow.
So, and after that, for another year, I would get messages on social media from Flyer fans who hated me.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, they like me. So that little situation with your dad, that's why I feel a different connection with your dad. It made me feel like there's more to the game. It's not just about winning. There's
Hmm.
more to the game. It's respect for your opponent. And sometimes we just have to stop and celebrate certain things. And that first 5 minutes was celebrating your dad. And it couldn't have, because I'll remember he stops and there's the whole 45,000 people stand up. It's a standing ovation. He stops, stops on it. And I couldn't have been happier. I don't know if you could see the smile. I couldn't have been happier.
Yeah.
But here, so then I go back to the bench. Al Trodwick is doing the game for MSG TV. He's on the bench, and he's not necessarily a hockey guy. His advantage point, he couldn't quite see. He saw my back to see me shoot. He had no idea. So he interviews me right away. I come to the bench, and he asks me, "But could you have done something different? You took a shot, you didn't score." And I didn't know how to answer it because I
Right.
thought, and I don't remember what my answer was. I wish I did. He was asking me like, "You didn't score, but it would have made a difference in the game." And so to continue this, Mike Keenan is our coach. If you know anything about Mike,
Oh yeah. I know.
Mike,
Was he mad?
Mike hates to lose.
Right.
But I've gotten to know Mike because I've worked with him with television. By this time, I know Mike. Everyone's left the dressing room. It's him and I leaving, and we're walking, and he says to me, "You know, good game tonight. We, you know, Ron, you know, because it's the Flyers, I would have liked to have won." And he goes, "You know, if you would have scored," and he's saying this to me with a straight face.
I'm not surprised.
That could have made a difference in the game, but he goes, "You know, I kind of understand why you did what you did." And I'm like, "Oh my God, Mike."
That story just tops it for me because that's such a Mike Keenan thing to tell.
Yeah, but that's Mike.
Yeah.
Stood, but he wanted to win so bad.
Right.
And he had to make that mention to me. So to this day, Mike and I are really good friends because I get him. I understand him.
Right.
In fact, we do a lot of events together. So, anyways, my phone is ringing right now. That's why I'm getting a buzz.
Yeah, no worries. I love the whole, I didn't know all of the backstory, like your side of that, because like I said, for me, it was something I'll never forget. Like that little thing that you did that erupted those 44,000 people that people still talk about to this day.
Yeah.
And for my dad to go out like that it couldn't have been more perfect. And the fact that you had the premonition, like I believe in all that stuff. I think that's so cool.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. It was clear as day. It was going to be him and I. I wasn't quite sure how it was going to happen, but it was just going to be him and I. And I was going to need to make a decision. and I knew that there's no way I'm going to try to score. I'm going to give him a chance. I'm going to give him a chance to make a save. Now, listen, I shot at his pads. It could have gone through his legs.
Yeah, he did. He had to do some work there. Right. But his face, did you see him light up? Hit the big smile. I think he thanked you or hit you on the head or something. I know everyone was coming over and patting him on the head, but he was just like, it was awesome.
But with all the hard times that I had in Philly, and I'm telling you, I had a hard time in Philly because they were.
I was going to ask you about that, so I'll have to,
the fans were abusive.
They whistled when as soon as you touched the puck, everyone would start whistling. Right?
Yeah. Well, they would whistle at me like I'm a woman, and the words that were throwing at me all the time because back then the glass was low glass.
Yeah.
Right.
Warm-ups, I couldn't skate by the glass. I had to skate in the middle. I could not because they were just.
Really? That's terrible.
Yeah. Well, listen, that's the way it was back then. They were allowed to do it.
Was it just in Philly? Did you experience that anywhere else?
It was mainly in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
On the island, I experienced some of it on the island, but it wasn't as bad because we had a lot of Ranger fans there. But Philly was the worst. And I got it. I loved the fact that they were giving me so much attention. The fact that they hated me so much, I'm doing something right.
Exactly.
Right?
That's so
It,
true.
it actually brought the best out of me because if you
Yeah.
look at all my games playing in Philly, I've scored a lot of games in Philly. I scored a lot of goals in Philly, and I would play my best because you had to be on your toes. You had to go 100 miles an hour. You had to stay in motion. You had to play hard. You had to keep your head up. Otherwise, you're going to get hit. You're going to get hurt. And you had to show up with your game face. I couldn't show up thinking I was on a dance floor.
Right. Dance your way through it.
It could be happy Ron, so it brought the best out of me. But one time, I think it might have been in the playoffs, there's a little more tension in the air. Sure enough, some guy, and back then when you stepped off the ice, it was just a little railing. There was no glass. Some guy off the railing, he just chirping at me, run right in my face, and I might have broke this guy's jaw. I hit him.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a reflex to how I was feeling.
Yeah.
I'd had enough. And sure enough, security came. If that same thing happened today, I would have ended up in jail.
Yeah.
They would have arrested me. But
Right.
this guy yanked him, security, because security didn't see that I was the one who hit him first. So they grabbed him, they threw him out of the building. And there was no word about anything after the game. Nothing. I should have been arrested because I hit this guy so hard.
It amazes me how you can keep your cool in those situations because I mean they can be really brutal and obnoxious. I find or banging on the glass and screaming like it's just yeah.
Well, the thing is that I'd playing major junior hockey in Ontario. It really got you ready to play in the NHL because we went through. I saw a lot of that in junior hockey, playing for Sudbury, going into St. Marie. It was really bad. So it kind of gets you ready. I got to turn my phone off because I have everyone for whatever reason is trying to reach me.
That always happens when you're middle of something.
Yeah, in fact, because I'm going to go see my Thanksgiving, 4th of July coming up. I don't know when you're going to air this, but 4th of July is coming up, and I'm going to go see my kids in California. As soon as I tell them I'm coming, then all the phone calls start to happen. And,
Nice.
Yeah. So, so playing junior hockey was the same thing. The brawls, the glass, I've taken a lot of abuse. For whatever reason, everyone thought I was gay.
Well, they say that because I mean it's all like jealousy and intimidation, so they have to turn around and it's just
I'd always
action.
and I would say, wait a minute, you want to see? Let me show you something.
Yeah.
I promise you I'm not.
Yeah.
So, we as athletes, we know it's not serious. They're just trying to get under our skin, just like the players. You play against players and they'll say things at you. You don't take it serious. You got to have tough skin.
Yeah.
So I've never taken it seriously. It's just sometimes, you're a little intense getting ready for a game, and sometimes you can only take so much. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've heard because living in Philly and growing up here, I always hear the Philly side of things. So like hearing like Chico and other people talk about coming in and playing in Philly, it's just don't realize the other end of it, until you hear it.
Well, I came in after they won the Stanley Cup twice. They won it essentially. Yes, they had your dad. Yes, they had some good players, but essentially they were intimidating teams.
Yeah.
They were bullying on teams, and and so by the time I get to the NHL, now the NHL, most all the teams have guys to have to defend against Philadelphia. So the whole league was tough. It was just it was a tough going, and so you had to man up. You got to man up. If not, boy, you're gonna figure it out, and they're going to come after you.
Well, it's not very intimidating to play there now. So.
But also, too, you grew up playing in the OHL, right? Or major junior in Sudbury, which prepared you for that, right?
Well, yeah, very much.
They're rough in there. The fans are rough.
It's tough hockey, like the Ontario Hockey League and stuff. Yeah, there was the Sault Ste. Marie teams, and you had good players could always handle themselves as well, right? So
what happened is that because Philly won the way they did, all of a sudden it ends up in junior hockey. This the coaches are looking at this. Okay, this is how we're going to start to try to win games. We're going to try to intimidate our opponent. So all of a sudden, every team is getting 2, 3 tough guys, and then you get a match up to that, and all of a sudden the game has changed because bench clearing brawls were still going on in juniors in the NHL by the time I got
Wow.
my first experience of that. Philadelphia, of course.
Oh my God.
Massive brawl, and if you get paired up with the wrong guy,
Yeah.
it'd be a long 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Did you get the wrong guy, or were you okay?
Well, I got one of the, Dave Hoyda.
Dave Hoyda was pretty tough.
Yeah, Dave was tough. He was, he was a designated fighter, and so you have to know how to manage those guys. A lot of it had because I was strong enough, but you just have to know how to grip, how to hold, and know what to do, when to do. And so I ended up with him, and so a guy can always feel someone else's strength when they grab you. Yeah. So him and I fought a couple times. It was just my fights were all I need to do is break even with this guy, just kind of show him that I will stand up to him and fight him.
Right.
I got Cochran a couple times.
Oh wow.
You caught Poulin. You caught Davey Poulin.
Yeah, Davey, that was a mistake on his part. Yeah, and I don't know if there's a story behind that. Brian Burke was the man. Was he the manager one time in Philadelphia?
I think he might have been.
Yeah. So, anyways, Brian tells me the story. He goes up to Poulin one day. He says, "Listen, you're going to have to find a way to get in a fight or two, just to let people know that you're willing." Is he an American, Poulin?
I think he is.
I think he is, but
He told me the story one time that he told him, "Listen, you're going to need to get in a fight or two just so you can show that you will fight." And sure enough, I don't know if it was within that week. They're playing the Rangers, and we're playing in a game where it's my last year. I'm not in a good mood. I'm in the third line. I'm not in a good mood in this game, and I think it was in the third period. Him and I center off against each other. If you go back to the video, and he gives me a shot, and I'm looking at this guy. Oh my God, you're not going to do that to me. I challenged him, and because he was told that he should get in a fight, he fights me.
Right.
Now, sure enough, I gave it to him pretty good. And so Berkey went up to him afterwards. You should get in a fight, but you need to be careful on which guy you pick on.
I got to go back and watch that to pull up on YouTube.
Yeah, that was too easy. It was just too easy. And I fought him. It was only because I was not in a good mood. I was playing on the third line.
Yeah.
So
he got you on the wrong day. And Dave Pullen's such a nice person. He's a really nice person.
Yeah, it's not his nature. And you would know that with certain guys, right? It's not his nature. It's not going to bother you. He's not going to give you a cheap shot. But he ended up giving me one because he was told to get a little more physical.
Right. Yeah.
So
do I really have to keep doing this?
Well, just pick on a little guy.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't realize how. I knew Clarkie was chippy and all that stuff, but hearing stories from other players about him kind of took me by surprise too. Just that he could have been a dirty player.
Yeah, they didn't like playing against him. They didn't have not a lot of great things to say about him because he had a lot of backup.
Who, Bobby Clark?
Yeah. Bobby Clark, yeah.
Oh yeah, no. Well, listen, if you watch his games, he was. I respected him because he was a good leader for that type of team.
Yeah.
He competed hard, and that's why I liked him. He competed hard, and back then, you're a smaller player. You're going to have to use your stick, and that's what he would do. And he got pretty good at it. He was a little bit chippy. I know he's given me a couple of shots in the back of the leg, but he had the guys to support him. But the guy can also score goals, and he competed hard when they needed him to. So I respected that for him. But he was chippy with a stick, and you had to. Back then, you had to.
Yeah. And then you played with Gretzky in LA, which is a whole different ballgame. That must have been a lot of fun for you.
Yeah, well, by the time I got to LA, I'd been struggling a little bit, and I was towards the end of my career, so I was more like on a third, fourth line. So, for me, I was accustomed to being on the top two lines. So I was more or less playing a defensive role, but I got to be around him. I got to see what made him tick on and
Mhm.
off the ice, in the dressing room, off the ice, then saw his magic on the ice. So that was a good experience to be around Kretz because I had played with him in one of the Canada Cups. Canada Cup, I think it was in 80, 81. We were on that team. I was on that team with them. But Gretz is he's a quiet leader. He's not a loud guy. He's very consistent. The way he practices, the way he played, he was always kind of the same way. He competed hard. If he got 2 goals, he was going to try to get 3. He didn't care if you were up if the team was up 6 goals or not. No, if he can get more, he's getting more. He was not letting up.
Mhm.
He was that type of guy. And when you look at his career for a little guy, 165 pounds, 5'11", 165, maybe 170, he knew how to maneuver on the ice. And, he was always protected, but very focused and extremely skilled.
Now, is he like one of those that's, I mean, obviously he worked hard and played hard, but was he the guy that stayed an extra hour or two, or did he just have that kind of natural talent?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He was never late, but he was never early.
Right.
He was not one that leave the ice first, but he wasn't last.
Right.
So somewhere in between, but it
Yeah.
wasn't. I don't remember watching him say, "Oh, I need to work on my shot," because I think with him, he understood that it's not like golf or it's not like tennis, where you're sitting there stationary and you're taking a shot. It's more you're shooting in different locations, different ways. A guy leaning on you. Nothing is really the same, and I've always seen it that way. Also, I'm never one that just kind of sit there and take shots because it's not like you were going to be free by yourself to just take a shot and aim at a corner.
Right.
So for me, I wanted to practice on my shots in an actual scrimmage. That was more real. And so I was not wanting I didn't feel like I needed to learn how to better snapshot or slap shot or any of that. Gretz, I think it was the same thing. He would you just react to situations.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole different ballgame in the action when it's going on. I mean, now they have the overtime, the whatchamacallit?
The shootout.
Shootout.
Yeah.
Shootouts.
So I mean, but like you said, how often did that happen before the shootout?
I don't know if you know this about Gretz, but he did not like the shootouts.
I did. Who said that? Was it Chico? Someone said that he wasn't great on breakaways.
Well, he was during the game because he was just responding to the game.
Right.
But if you put him in a situation where everything stops and you're actually having to think about it, and I think the pressure of him to have to score because he's the great one, I don't think the pressure would bother him. But I don't know this for a fact. I just have an idea because I'm kind of the same way. You give me a breakaway in a game, there's a better chance I'm going to score in a game than I am in an actual shootout. Because a shootout, you have all these eyes and people watching you, and you're
Time
expected
to think about it. Yeah.
you start thinking about it instead of just reacting or responding.
Right. Yeah.
So I never liked shootouts either, and I think that he did. Even like Yager did not like him. I bet you for the same reason.
Yeah.
I don't know about Lemieux. I'm not sure with Mario, but I know with Gretz and Yager, those two did not like doing it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can see that.
Yeah.
When you're in the heat of the game, it's a whole different.
Yeah. Then there's other guys like to sit around and practice on stuff and practice, right?
Right.
They really enjoy doing it, and so they would do it in practice. Say, hey, can I do it in the game? Because I've been working on this one trick. I've been working on this one. So you have those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, you hear that during broadcasts sometimes where they say, oh, he's been working on this a lot during practice, but who do you have for the I'm guessing you're rooting for Montreal?
I would like to see Canada win.
Okay.
It'd be good for Canada.
Right.
Montreal hasn't won, and Tampa won last year. I'm not sure. I'm just rooting to watch a good series. More
I
than
hope so too.
I
Yeah.
can be entertained. Most all these games have been very entertaining.
So
Very,
good.
yeah,
I
so
think
good.
that last Islanders game was a little kind of boring, but most of them have been really entertaining.
Yeah, so I'm hoping for the same thing. And I like when the players go after each other, which we've seen a lot of that.
Yep.
Like really care, like get angry, go after each other.
Yeah.
Like that, because when you're playing the Stanley Cup and you're not getting angry, there's something wrong. You should get angry. Things should break out, pushing and shoving, the occasional fight because it's part of the game. Because you're competing for the Stanley Cup. I don't want to see nice hockey.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of that we're going to see in this series. So I'm looking forward to it. But I'd like to see Montreal win because as a Canadian, I'm thinking Canada.
Yeah.
And it would be good for the Cup to end up in Canada, although they have all these crazy lockdowns.
Right.
It's hard to watch the games when there's no audience.
Oh, it's it's hard enough during the regular season, but in the playoffs, not having the crowd there, it's
Could you imagine being the owner? Sorry, go ahead.
You're looking at tarps.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? Where's Gary Bettman on this?
I was
Right.
going to say, he's looking at tarps as like, that's money he's losing. Let
Yeah.
alone the Montreal owners. Here we are in the Stanley Cup finals and nobody's allowed in the rink. Like,
And as a player, I mean, I would ask you, like, as a player, not having the fans there, I mean, that's
There's definitely an advantage.
yeah.
Listen, I'm not going to get into really why it's all being allowed. But I can't imagine that game one, that they're not going to have at least 10,000 people. Because what was embarrassing in that last game, Montreal, that, okay, there was a celebration inside. Well, you look outside, there's like, 6,000 people.
Yeah.
No mask. They're all high-fiving each other, partying. There's all these people are outside. So why is it that they're permitted to be outside, but they can't be inside?
Right.
It was embarrassing for everyone to show this.
Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming that all those people outside are going to be able to go inside.
And like you said, they're out there hugging and jumping up and down and grabbing. Like, what's the difference? You know, let them get in there and for the team.
And it's crazy because that's why I keep
make a decision on whether they want to go somewhere or not go somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
No one's forcing them to go. If someone goes, you go at your own risk, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
So,
and I've been locked out of work for 18 months, but I'm a dual citizen. So like I said, I was in Chicago last night, came back, and I had to cross the border because I fly into Buffalo and I have to drive across by land. I can't fly in, or I have to stay in a hotel for 3 days. Then I got to quarantine for 14. So if I come across by land, because I'm a dual citizen, I'm allowed to do that. So I keep driving over to Buffalo and flying around in the States. And then I come back to, lockdown. So.
Yeah, some of the stories I'm hearing out of Quebec are couples that if they go to Florida, come back, that they're not married, but they're living in the same house.
Yeah.
They'll get calls every day.
Yeah.
They'll get a call every day. What
Yep.
room are you in right now? Is your boyfriend? Make sure you don't spend too much time in the same room as your boyfriend. Oh, they're telling them what to do. It's really.
You're not in the same room as your boyfriend right now, are you? Like,
Yeah.
no, of course not. Yeah.
It's
They
starting-
expect people to be honest.
Yeah,
it's
no,
loosening a bit.
it's pretty.
Yeah.
They came to my house looking for me. I was supposed to be quarantined for 14 days, but because I'm a dual citizen, if I'm in Canada, I have to stay in my house, but I can leave to go back to the US anytime I want. So they came looking for me and I was in the States. They were fine with it. They're looking, I guess, for people who are,
Can you imagine how many people are employed to actually do that? How much money are they spending?
What I said. Like when Corey first, I'm like, there's no way they're going to check up on you. You know how much money it would cost them, how many employees to follow up on everyone? And they're doing it like.
They're actually doing it. That's how important it is to them.
Wow.
The first time I crossed, I didn't have a PCR test a couple months ago. They gave me a ticket for $3,750 for not having, and the next day I tested negative. So they gave me a ticket for not having a PCR test, thinking I was bringing a virus into our country.
Yeah.
But I test negative every time. And so I didn't have to pay it, but we have a big deficit and they got to make their money back somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just another form of tax.
Yeah.
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 Well, I'm glad that things are good down here, and with the summer and the shore and everything,
Yeah.
everything feels kind of normal.
Yeah. Where are you?
I'm right outside of Philly on southern New Jersey.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm going to Atlantic City. I do an event there. When you say Philly, because I was going to land in Philly because I'm doing an event.
That's about 40 minutes from me, Atlantic City. It's not too far.
Yeah, I do an event there on. I'm August 7th, August 8th, August 7th and 8th in Atlantic City, and because all the events I normally do have all been canceled, but now they're starting up again.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, a lot of places shut down Atlantic City too. So I'm curious to see how I'm sure everyone will start to rebound, but I think a lot of stuff has shut down.
Yeah, well, I think it's open by the time I get there because there's.
Oh yeah, I mean things are open.
Yeah.
I mean, like a couple businesses like just had to close for good, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But no, everything down there should be open up now.
It was.
Yeah.
I was down there in Long Beach Island a couple weeks ago, and it was wide open. Everything was, restaurants, all that sort of stuff. But it did.
Yeah.
There was a lot of places not open because they didn't survive through through the pandemic. But anyway,
well, I'm glad biscuit teas. I'm glad that we didn't have brick and mortar, so I didn't have to worry about that. But
yeah, that's true too. Oh well.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so
Good
much for coming on. We really, really, really appreciate it. And my dad would probably love to be on your show. I'll mention it to him.
Yeah, I'm going to keep that in mind because if it does happen, it'll be in October and it's going to be French. So I'm going to need some help.
Okay.
And I would love for your dad to, because Hollywood's not far from Boca, right?
No, not at all. Yeah.
So I will keep that in mind because I would love to have him as a guest so he can help me out a little bit. And,
well, his French is getting a little rusty too. So.
Yeah. Well, listen, French Canadians don't care as long as you try.
Right.
As long as they try, as long as you try, they're okay with that.
Yeah.
So
maybe your dad's speaking Italian now.
All right. Well,
kidding.
enjoy the rest of your day, and seriously, really, really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun to hang out with you for a bit.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Ron.
Yeah. Any final questions before I go?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. No. Oh, no. My dad wanted to say, because a lot of respect for you, when he played in the outdoor game against Detroit, he was in net for Toronto. He had 5 minutes slotted. He left after 90 seconds because I think Yuri Herdler let a clapper go about 90 miles an hour past his head. So he left the net. He's like, forget this. So he's like, Jesus, Duguay's, so he had a lot of respect for you doing that.
He didn't do the Duguay respect for him that my dad received.
Yeah, no, he's like, Jesus, no one respected me. This guy let one go 90 miles an hour, 90 seconds into the game.
That's what happens. You get caught up in the excitement of the game, and you just let a slapper go like you really want to win. Anyway, okay, good talking, guys.
All right,
okay.
you too.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks so much, Ron. Take care.